everybody, this is Kohdok here. Well, it's time again for another big review. A lot of you guys might remember that Monsuno blurb I did about a month ago, and a lot of you were asking me for more about it, so now, with a little help from Jakks Pacific, I can bring you a full review of Monsuno. For those of you who don't know, Monsuno is a toy line created by Jakks Pacific. Monsuno are little monsters that are kept inside canisters, and when the canisters hit something or each other, the monster is ejected from the capsule. Monsuno has a similar premise to Bakugan and a similar price range to Beyblade. I imagine in an attempt to scoop up those displaced by Bakugan's current doldrums and Redekai's basic failure in every regard. There's also a card game printed by Topps, which I'll get into later. However, Monsuno has come in with considerably less fanfare, and it seems that Jakks is taking a more cautious approach to bringing it in, seeing as it's in the wake of Redekai's huge parade. Well, we'll see how that really works out for them. The most basic toys of Monsuno are, of course, the cores. The cores work by having a weight in the large portion of the core, which has a conical indent that houses a portion of a latch, which is held in place by a spring. The Monsuno inside is held by the latch and restrains a spring-loaded plate. The lock wedges the latch in place to keep it from moving. When the core suffers an impact, the weight jostles around and pushes against the latch, no matter the direction. If the shock is strong enough, it opens the latch far enough for the plate to launch the Monsuno. In theory, the idea is to get the Monsuno to collide, but in practice it's actually pretty difficult to get the Monsuno to launch, as it takes either a pretty hefty whack to get them to come out, or it's the opposite, and the Monsuno come out before they even hit anything. Using them often seems to make them more reliable at launching, though, just sort of breaking them in. Depending on how the Monsuno is done, some of them can have pretty good designs, and it can be impressive to see what they can fit inside the tubes. For example, Spider-Wolf, who admittedly looks pretty silly, looks downright amazing compared to its artwork. Each Monsuno comes with 3 trading cards, 2 of which are always the Monsuno and its special attack. Each Monsuno costs about $8, with combo packs lowering the cost per Monsuno slightly. There are 3 different manufacturers of Monsuno: Kohdok, S.T.O.R.M, and Eclipse.
Because poor literacy is someone else's joke.
Kohdok monsters look the most like normal animals or animals of legend. Locke is a polar bear covered in crystals that folds at the hips to go back into its core. Quick Force is a hippogriff-like Monsuno with a unique pale blue color. Charger, as you know, is a Muscanon Monsuno with large antlers. Glowblade uses a dark blue color that is also integrated with some red. Could there be some hidden meaning? Evo is a bird Monsuno with large white wings. S.T.O.R.M has a more militaristic and practical appearance with dulled colors and sleek designs. Black Bullet is a bird Monsuno that resembles Evo and it has the largest unfolded form of any Monsuno so far. Ricochet is a beetle Monsuno and actually has the smallest foldout so far. Driftblade is a lion Monsuno with large shoulder blades. And finally, Eclipse. Eclipse Monsuno are horrifying biological mashups with no rhyme or reason. Backslash strongly resembles Locke in design, but has a longer snout and more protrusions. Snapclaw is a lobster, fly, scorpion, bug thing that I can't really describe all that well. I'd swear I have seen something with Moonfire's design before, I just can't remember where. Spikelash is another one of those mashups that's hard to describe. I don't know, evil pillbug? And Spider-Wolf, like I said before, looks kinda silly but has a really solid design. There are currently 13 Monsuno out there in the first wave. Sadly, there are only 3 S.T.O.R.M Monsuno versus 5 Kohdok and 5 Eclipse. It's like I'm getting the Chaos treatment already. Anyway, Jakks has claimed to have made 105 Monsuno for just the first year. And even if that means they have made only 35 designs that they plan on recoloring for each team, we still haven't even seen a third of what they come up with, especially if Evo and Black Bullet and Locke and Backslash are considered matching designs. Not to say it hasn't been without its problems. The cores have been plagued with manufacturing errors and defects. Half of the sets I have bought have contained a different defect the first time I bought them. The very first pack I bought had a defect where the latch was lodged open and the Monsuno wouldn't stay inside. I was able to take the pictures of the guts of a core due to, you guessed it, another manufacturing defect. The defective core situation is definitely something that needs to be dealt with, and if you end up with a busted core, you should take it back to the store you bought it at as soon as possible to swap it out. There are some other toys in the Monsuno line as well, starting with these metal ultra spin cores. The idea is that they behave like regular cores, but are smaller and cheaper with pictures of the Monsuno printed on them. I mean, they work fine, but they kinda strike me as beads that you can use to make a necklace, a really expensive necklace. Probably one of the better peripherals is the hand launcher, as unlike the launcher used for games like Bakugan and such, this one actually has a purpose. Since you slam your finger onto the surface you are launching on, it doesn't take long for your finger to start stinging, which makes me wonder why the launching glove doesn't have any finger protection. The launcher keeps your fingers safe from that. It is a bit less powerful than finger launching, but a little breaking in and practice helps make it work better, even if it does have an annoying tendency to launch the Monsuno prematurely. Now they tell you to lock the core before launching it, but what fun is that? They also made a large multi-launcher, one of the most expensive things in the line, that they claim can launch 5 Monsuno in rapid succession. Actually, it holds 6 Monsuno that go in with a satisfying click and are launched out the front. There's a locking mechanism, which means you have to launch it on a flat surface. However, the problem is that you cannot draw the launcher back to compensate for the horizontal force used to launch like you can by launching with your hand or the smaller launcher, so the Monsuno go flying out and travel more than they spin. Otherwise, I guess you could use it for storage. Up next we have the Wild Core, a self-powered core that spins on its own. I don't really know the in-universe gist given for the Wild Core, but I'm guessing it's a core that has been damaged and is going out of control. If you shoot another Monsuno at it and strike it properly, the core bursts open and stops spinning. They say it will spin for 20 minutes, but whether that means it will shut itself off or run out of battery power is a bit vague. The Wild Core also comes with a powerful unique card. I admit I'm a bit against using expensive toys to try to sell one card, but at least the cards that come with them can only be used one per deck, meaning you only ever need one. I mean, what companies think it's a good idea to make people have to buy 3 of something just to get the exclusive card inside, even though they'll only ever need 1 of it? Ha! Then there's the battle arena I've been using to show these things off with. The arena is meant to be like the Beyblade arenas and keep them in place, but my Monsuno just sort of trace a straight line through each end and go flying out to the other side. Maybe if there was a part that could close off one of the ends to the arena so you could launch Monsuno on their own? Then again, it does help ease the shock of launching with your fingers, and doesn't make them hurt quite so much. There is also a bigger launching set that looks kind of like the kind you find in Bakugan, but I haven't really been able to take a look at that yet. And then there's the stock clip. The stock clip can hold 2 Monsuno and about 13 cards. Not nearly enough for a full game, yeah, but I think they're putting something else out that can do that. It can also attach to the bandolier, which holds some more Monsuno and is scheduled to come out later this year. The Wild Core can attach to the stock clip like normal, and heck, the hand launcher can attach too! Oh yeah, there's a bunch of other stuff scheduled to come out in May or June with the next wave of Monsuno, like the aforementioned bandolier. We also got cases, plushes, figurines, and even some funny Hulk hand-style lock gloves. Then again, I am a little worried about the large lock plush. I mean, big plushes are supposed to be kinda cute and huggable, but this guy looks downright scary and might frighten some kids. I mean, imagine if you saw that face on a Build-A-Bear figure. Yeah! Monsuno is also about a card game, which is currently being printed by Topps. Topps is known for making rather terrible trading card games, but fortunately Jakks knew this and kept all the card game development in-house. The card game goes like this. You have your Monsuno cards with black backs and your strike cards with white backs. You make a clip of 3 different Monsuno whose launch total does not exceed 15, meaning you can basically create a team that has launch values of 4, 5, and 6, or 3 Monsuno all with launch 5. This means that Chase, Jinja, and Bren together have a game-legal team. You can make teams with a lower total, but why would you do that? You then need to make a deck of at least 40 strike cards with no more than 3 copies of each card and no more than 1 copy of each unique card. The game works like this. You draw 5 cards at the start, and that becomes your starting hand. Whoever goes first can perform 1 action during their turn: launch, attack, or recover. After they perform one of these actions, it's their opponent's turn. To launch a Monsuno, you must discard strike cards from your hand that total the launch value of the Monsuno you are trying to launch. This is the game's balancing mechanic. More powerful strike cards provide less launch value, and more powerful Monsuno cost more to throw at your opponent. If you load up with too many powerful strike cards, you might have to discard your entire hand to get out even 1 Monsuno. If you have a Monsuno out that is already launched, you can choose to attack with it. Pick a Monsuno that your opponent launched, or, if they don't have any, one on their clip. Each player draws a card and then picks and plays a strike card face down. Drawing the card means you are guaranteed to have a strike card for this. After this, you reveal the card and determine who dominates. The cards have a strike type symbol, as well as listing any strike type symbols that they automatically dominate. In case this doesn't determine it, this is where the speed stat comes in. The attacker uses the strike speed plus the speed of their Monsuno, while the defender gets to use just the strike speed. Higher speed wins. Yeah, it's a rock, paper, scissors mechanic, but bear with me here, that's not all of it. Whoever's the dominator gets to add the strike card's damage to the damage they deal to their opponent, which is marked with damage counters. Each Monsuno has a base strike value that they can deal whether they win or not, meaning that it's actually possible to deal more damage to your opponent even if you are dominated. Some cards actually benefit from being dominated, and others can deal some damage regardless of whether they win or lose, so it's hard to predict. After combat, both Monsuno are sent back to the clip in the exhausted status. The rulebook doesn't really clarify how to mark it, but I prefer the classic method of turning them sideways like I'm tapping them or putting them into defense position, as that seems to be the most common way to mark it. At the end of the battle, if the strike type of the card matches one of the strike types listed at the bottom of the Monsuno that used it, then it gets attached to that Monsuno. The attached cards serve two purposes. One, they act as fuel for the Monsuno's powered-up strikes, where if you get one card of each color listed, you can discard one to change the Monsuno's basic strike damage to the powered-up damage for one fight. The other reason is upgrades. Some strike cards add new abilities to your Monsuno when they are attached by using the text in the lower text box. There are also special attacks which only give their benefits if they are being used by a particular Monsuno. These effects are often quite powerful. On the other hand, if you try to use a strike card that doesn't match the color of your Monsuno and is not a universal card, then you lose the speed bonus and card text and you don't get to attach the card after combat. Your third option is to recover. When you recover, you switch your exhausted Monsuno back to the ready position and refill your hand of 5 cards. If you do this with all of your Monsuno ready and a full hand, you have to dump your hand and draw 5 new cards, as well as deal 10 damage to each Monsuno you have. Your opponent is also given massive benefits if you try to avoid launching any Monsuno, so a stall-out strategy done like this really isn't all that viable. If a Monsuno takes as much damage as its hit points, it is knocked out, removed from the game, and its controller gets a free recover. The first player to knock out all of their opponent's Monsuno wins.
Is it perfect? No, but it is their first attempt to try to do something like this, so I'm willing to cut them a little slack. And unlike a certain company, it at least looks like they've done their homework on how to create a competitive card game.
Another fun thing is some of the cards let you get a preview of some Monsuno to come, such as Skysight and Longfang. The starter decks come with 2 33-card partial decks, a promo card, and 1 booster pack, similar to the Magic the Gathering layout. It's enough for 2 people to play, as well as a simple sense of what else the game can offer, and contains 79 cards for $13. Not too shabby. The booster packs contain 12 cards and cost $4, setting them around average in the booster pack department, somewhere between Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic the Gathering. The packs come in the same sort of packaging they put baseball cards or old Magic cards in. Nostalgic. The tie-in with the toy is rather tenuous, but if there is a character you are looking for, you can just buy the booster pack that contains the Monsuno and be guaranteed to get it. Imagine if Yu-Gi-Oh! Had a system like that, where you could get the card you wanted just by buying that card's figure.
Why look, it's Dark Magician Girl! I saw her first! I saw her first!
There are some weaknesses in the card game, such as a lack of deck control and the fact that the symbols on the cards actually have names and they're not listed next to the names on the card text. If a strike type is named on the card, the symbol of that type needs to show up next to it. As for deck control, they have already introduced keywords such as direct and heroic to the mix, so that would be a fantastic basis to start working with deck control. Also, while it's nice to see that the promo cards have alternate artwork, I'd like to see some examples that are more on the level with Pokemon or Magic the Gathering. I think the Pokemon card game has stayed fresh over the years despite having a limited set of monsters thanks to taking advantage of the variety of artists they have and what they bring to the table. I'd like to see that sort of thing with Monsuno. Imagine what Driftblade would look like in Mitsuhiro Arita's style. I noticed that another number combination that wouldn't break 15 or cause it to be possible to put in more or less than 3 Monsuno is 447. I wonder if they'll ever make any Launch 7 Monsuno. If a Launch 7 Monsuno ever did rear its ugly head, how powerful would it be? What would it even look like? I don't know, but I imagine a few jaws would drop. There's also a show for this series running on Nicktoons with a name that really shouldn't surprise you. The show centers around a guy named Chase Suno, who one day stumbles across his dad Jerry Suno's newly invented super weapon, which he names Locke. However, a government organization called S.T.O.R.M and a rogue element called Eclipse both want to get their hands on Chase and Locke. The show centers around Chase and his friends trying to find Jerry while evading these forces. Chase travels with his friends, Bren, a smart but cowardly guy, and Jinja, a wild girl who is good at fixing things.
Shut up, guys, because here we go!
It's a solid enough premise, and it looks like it's going to be helped along by the fact that S.T.O.R.M and Eclipse are also kind of enemies, so they're not kind of used as interchangeable villains of the week, which is really going to help it a lot. The confrontations are believable, and the main characters are punished when they do something stupid.
It does have its ups and downs, however. So far, the character who has gotten the most development is S.T.O.R.M member John Ace. We have borne witness to his true character and the sorts of things he has to deal with. His strong characterizations is one of the reasons I'm a fan of S.T.O.R.M, whereas the main characters haven't really quite gotten the same level of development.
When I throw a party, I really throw a party.
Monsuno, what have you done?
Speaking of S.T.O.R.M, their rhetoric is that it's important to regulate and control Monsuno, but the thing is, so far we've only seen a couple of corrupted individuals in the form of Charlemagne and Trey, and one cynic in the form of John Ace. What we need to see is a devout, somebody who totally buys the rhetoric of S.T.O.R.M to maybe make the case, because, you know, like the first episode shows us, these things really are that dangerous. There are some other problems too, like the glaringly cheap animation.
Listen to me, my darling. You will come to know the truth of life.
Okay, it's been like 5 seconds. Can we get into a shot now?
Time. You see,
Or at least a new expression? I don't usually hold animation look or quality against the show, but it begins to wear down my patience sometimes. There's also Chase's lame exclamation.
Oh, Crag!
I mean, you really couldn't come up with anything better than that? You know, there are tons of ways for somebody to exclaim themselves without swearing.
Oh, for Pete's sake.
And then that character in that really long shot I showed you earlier named Medea is obviously a knockoff of Street Fighter character Juri Han. However, she lacks the menace and posture that Juri Han carries and thus kind of falls flat as a character. If you're going to reference another character, you need to at least do it awesome. Episode 1 was pretty good in that it actually felt like a pilot episode. The characters are introduced and the plot is set in motion. On the other hand, Episode 2, where the gang tries to save a Monsuno named Quick Force, is a complete wash. About halfway through, everyone's common sense takes a backseat to senseless action and product placement.
Big time Lish. It's a belt clip for Locke. Excellent. I'll hold on to that.
This episode is so bad that I have rewritten it in my mind. I mean, look at Trey here. He takes a toy that can launch 6 Monsuno in order to shoot just one. What a jerk! I can imagine his subordinate standing there saying, "Your light-up plastic toy, sir." Yippee! When they do finally find Quick Force, Bren throws a hissy fit,
But I want a Monsuno by my side. And I want that Monsuno.
and the entire rescue operation is decided by, I wish I didn't have to say this, a game of rock, paper, scissors. Episode 3 gets back on track by introducing Eclipse as a sinister but mysterious element. Episode 4 has the Medea character I showed you before, and it really sort of patterns out like that, alternating between the good and the bad. Hopefully the show can find its stride and this odd dance routine of good, bad can stop. There are some things I find interesting though. Starting in episode 2, I've gotten this sneaking suspicion that Jarity is actually a bad guy. He says he disdains S.T.O.R.M's methods of experimentation and is against violence, but you have to admit, a guy who's been spending the past couple of years creating giant monsters in a secret jungle laboratory doesn't really have much room to criticize the morality on others, or at least has a very tenuous grip on reality. I began thinking this in episode 2 when he basically tricks the kids into doing his dirty work of rescuing Quick Force through his old data logs. Later, it's revealed that he is trying to get information on Eclipse, which is an even more sinister organization than S.T.O.R.M.
Your old man was at the underground. He showed up asking all sorts of questions about my cores. Wanted to know where I got him, who made him, everything.
Episode 5 introduces Bayal, who grew up in a monastery, and his Monsuno, Glowblade, who he suggests was given to him by Jarity.
Let's see, info on Glowblade. Unbeknownst to him, there is a tracer on his Monsuno.
Well, the show has only been around for about a month, but at least the good episodes balance out with the bad for now. Not bad considering the show looks like it was made for a song, and hopefully it will only get better. Then again, I would like to see the characters spending a little more time bonding with their Monsunos. Shows like Pokemon, Digimon, and even Bakugan to an extent have some time where the characters and their Mons just spend some time getting to know each other. I think that the time spent bonding is part of the appeal that those shows hold.
Oh, and please fix the theme song.
Man of the hour, got my core ready in the skills to devour.
So in general, Monsuno has the pedigree of a good show, but so far it hasn't really done anything to differentiate itself from other shows like Pokemon or otherwise. And I guess at this point it's really up to you to decide whether you like it or not. If they could find a way to differentiate themselves, I think they'd probably do a lot better. There are some things that could stand to be improved though. First of all, fix the problems with these cores!
Why several should malfunction is either a problem with the line or my incredibly bad luck. A little more quality control in the cores would be a good idea. Secondly, the large lock plush is just too darn scary. It's a bit of a systemic problem actually. I mean, Jakks Pacific makes the Pokemon plushes for the United States and tends to stay on model, while Ban Presto, who makes the plushes for Japan, often makes their plushes chibified and cute. And when you can make something big and vicious like Palkia look cute, that's an accomplishment. I think Jakks could stand to learn a thing or two from Band Presto in this regard. I'm sure people would be all over an adorable Charger or Locke.
I would also like to see the toys integrated into the card game. And so, in conclusion, Monsuno, is it for you? Well, like I said before, it's really up to you whether you like it or not. It's a bit of a stereotypical Mon series so far, and it hasn't really hit that note that makes it so much different from all of the other ones. It's been selling pretty well at our stores, and I guess I can't really complain about that. The stock's actually moving, and we've actually had to order some replacements, which we didn't have to on some of our series, the ones that do the worst. It has some promise, as long as things like the story picks up, the show hits its own beat, and it comes up with something that makes it so much different. I haven't really heard about a tournament scene yet. They haven't really mentioned anything on their Facebook or on their website, and I'll just have to see if any organized play really starts up. And now for what I'm sure a lot of you guys have been waiting for, this being a review funded by the company that made it after all, the prizes. Well, Jakks Pacific did send me a couple of Mystery Monsuno that I can give away. Anyway, the contest this time is actually going to be run differently. You're still going to have to subscribe, but it's going to be in a different way. I'm sorry, I asked personal questions on these last few contests, and I'm not really going to do that anymore. Instead, I'm going to be doing it using a widget called Rafflecopter. In my blog post about this video, I'll be putting an entry widget for Rafflecopter on there. Now, you can actually enter up to 5 times. Once by subscribing to me, and then you can get some more points by liking the video, or putting a comment on the video, or tweeting about it. And that can really get you some more chances to win this. You can also see how many people have entered. So if you come up and you see there's only been like 7 entries, then why not jump in? So I will be taking care of these later. It'll be a couple of weeks until I do that. And until then, this is Kohdok signing off.